representing the Bloodline,
the infamous Tonga Loa. Silent assassin, doesn't say much, but is utterly devastating inside those ropes.
And this is a smash mouth superstar in every sense of the word.
And out from behind, oh, and a low blow!
He's the MVP of botching.
You know, some people get it, immediately. And then some people, it just takes a while. I feel like it's taken me just a little bit.
The Bloodline has without question been the premier faction of WWE for almost half a decade now, and while Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga have proven to be great additions to this new iteration of the group, one member in particular has garnered a lot of notoriety for all the wrong reasons. I'm talking of course about the infamous Tonga Loa, a man with so many iconic botches to his name, many believe it's become his gimmick at this point. So what exactly happened, and has he always been this bad ever since? For us to answer these questions, we have to go back to his first run in WWE. Tonga Loa, whose real name is Tevita Fifita, started his wrestling career in November of 2008 alongside his brother Alipate Fifita, aka Tama Tonga, in a tag team called the Sons of Tonga, a reference to their father, the legendary Haku. Together, the brothers would wrestle in several indie promotions, including WXW and WWC, before taking part in a WWE tryout camp that same month. Tevita was offered a contract shortly after and officially joined WWE's then developmental brand Florida Championship Wrestling in March of 2009. His brother, however, wasn't as fortunate, and he would continue making a name for himself in the independent scene instead. As a young prospect, Tevita spent the next 2 years in developmental, working under several guises, before eventually settling in as Donnie Marlowe, where he won the FCW Tag Team Championship with CJ Parker. He would make his main roster debut on the December 15, 2011 episode of WWE Superstars with little to no fanfare as Unico's hired muscle named Camacho. Camacho wouldn't really do much of anything in his first appearance, as he just stood at ringside looking menacingly, with Unico making short work of his opponent. Then, the following week on Superstars, Unico faced a tougher opponent in Ezekiel Jackson, and this time, Camacho paid dividends as he provided a distraction which allowed Unico to get the upset victory. On the last SmackDown of 2011, we'd find out more about Camacho and his origins during an unintentionally hilarious pre-match promo where he tried his best Mexican impression.
This is my homie Camacho from back in the barrio.
We plan on taking over the WWE in 2012, Simon Este. In 2012.
We wouldn't see Camacho wrestle until the February 17, 2012 edition of SmackDown, where he and Unico competed in an Elimination Chamber qualifying Battle Royal. He didn't last very long though, getting eliminated by Ted DiBiase Jr., who had been feuding with Unico for the past couple of weeks. Back at Superstars, Unico and Camacho wrestled their first match together as a tag team, defeating the Usos in a decent back and forth bout. However, they'd be unsuccessful in their second tag match, losing to the team of Kofi Kingston and R-Truth. Oddly enough, Camacho would get his first not pre-show pay-per-view match just a few weeks later at Over the Limit, as he went one-on-one with Ryback. This ended up being nothing more than a squash match though, as Ryback was still in the early stages of a monster push. After the pay-per-view, he would find himself mostly relegated to wrestling on the recently rebooted version of WWE's developmental brand, NXT. While still appearing regularly on the main roster, it was only to accompany Unico in his matches and provide the occasional assist. Camacho would lose his first match in NXT facing a young Seth Rollins before getting his win back in a 6-man tag later that night. Then, on the 1000th episode of Raw, Unico and Camacho, along with other underutilized stars, all came out to interrupt Kane's entrance, complaining about not getting any opportunities. They decided to take matters into their own hands and create one for themselves, surrounding the Big Red Machine until The Undertaker came out to help his brother. The Brothers of Destruction would easily take care of the Job Squad, ending the segment in a great fan service moment. This would end up being one of the only highlights of the bike riding duo's time together, and also one of Unico's last appearances for quite some time, as he underwent knee surgery which took him out of action for the rest of the year. And so, Camacho had to wrestle as a single star for the rest of 2012 until early 2013, mostly jobbing to other, more important stars. Unico would finally return to action in late November and resume his partnership with Camacho, only to lose every subsequent match on the main roster after. after. Finding themselves in a slump, the duo tried to change their fortunes in NXT and started feuding with then NXT Tag Team Champions The Ascension in December of 2013. They would manage to score an upset victory against the champs in a non-title match, but then lost the next one, which was for the NXT Tag Team titles. Tied at 1 win apiece, their blow-off match would be held under Tornado Tag rules, which they unfortunately lost again. And this would turn out to be Unico and Camacho's final appearance together, as Unico officially donned the Sin Cara persona again when the previous one was released in February of 2014. As for Camacho, he would stick around NXT as a full-time singles superstar but never really broke out, as he mostly spent the remainder of his time feuding with and losing to Adam Rose. He then got released shortly after on June 12 of 2014 as part of the company's yearly house cleaning. After a very forgettable stint in WWE, Fifita sought greener pastures elsewhere, debuting on TNA Impact's one-night-only gut-check pay-per-view on February 16th the following year and won a tournament to secure a contract with the company. Now going by the name Micah, he would form a faction with Drew Galloway and Eli Drake, calling themselves The Rising. The group was essentially created to combat MVP's Beatdown Clan faction, but found little to no success, as they ended up being on the wrong side of a beatdown pretty much every time they were together. And after several months of the two factions feuding with each other, The Rising was forced to disband on the July 1st episode of Impact when they lost to the Beatdown Clan in a 4-on-3 handicap elimination match. This split though didn't do Micah any favors either, as he lost almost all of his matches following their disbandment, and his run in Impact ended in yet another forgettable failure, much like in WWE. After his release from Impact, Fifita made the jump to the other side of the world and signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he would finally reunite with his brother Tama Tonga. It was here where he truly found his footing and flourished as a tag team specialist. Introduced by his brother as the newest member of the Bullet Club faction in March of 2016, the now rechristened Tonga Loa immediately made an impact, attacking Togi Makabe during his match with Tama and forming the tag team that would be known as the Guerrillas of Destiny. GOD didn't waste time seeking for gold, as they challenged Makabe and his partner Tomoaki Honma for the IWGP Tag Team Championship at the Invasion Attack pay-per-view. And after a hard-fought 20-minute battle, the brothers managed to capture the titles, their first of many in the promotion. From here, up until their departure in early 2024, the Guerrillas of Destiny would become a fixture in New Japan's tag division, producing great matches with the likes of the Briscoes and Chaos, while holding the record for the most number of IWGP Tag Team title reigns at 7. While far from being the best in-ring workers in the company, they more than made up for it with presentation, putting on sick-looking war paint in their faces and having probably the most badass theme song of any tag team ever. In June of 2022, however, GOD would experience a major blow in their momentum, as Tonga Loa suffered an MCL tear that took him out of action for more than a year. During his time away, his brother had begun carving out a decent singles run in the mid-card scene and eventually became one of the most over gaijins in the promotion, producing bangers with the likes of Shingo Takagi for the never openweight title. He would later return in July of 2023, just in time for the G1 climax, but clearly looked like an even worse version of himself before the injury. It was in this tournament where we'd get that infamous segment of Tonga Loa laying the smackdown on Okada. And as he continued wrestling in singles action, his deficiencies got exposed more and more, with a 619 that would make a still-alive Rey Mysterio roll in his grave. In January of 2024, it was reported that Tama Tonga's contract was expiring and had been in serious talks to jump ship to WWE. Those reports would later prove to be true, as not long after, Tama made his shocking debut on the April 12th episode of SmackDown, taking out Jey Uso and forming a new bloodline with Solo Sikoa. And so, it was only a matter of time until Tonga Loa also followed suit. He would wrestle his last match in New Japan on March 31st of 2024, losing to Great-O-Khan in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the King of Pro Wrestling title. An insanely bizarre bout that featured an eel-eating contest for some reason, which probably turned out to be the best one of his singles career as well. Finally, at Backlash 2024, Fifita, being slightly renamed again to Tonga Loa, made his WWE re-debut by helping the Bloodline beat Randy Orton and Kevin Owens in a no disqualification match. match. And yet somehow, he managed to botch his first spot with the company, with fans catching the ref roll himself outside during a pin attempt due to Tonga's late pullout game. Regardless, he would join as the latest member of the new Bloodline and had his first match back on the May 31st edition of SmackDown, defeating the Street Profits in tag team action. The group would have more run-ins with Randy and KO over the coming weeks, with Solo eventually reigniting a feud with Cody for the undisputed WWE title. As if the group couldn't get any more dangerous, the unhinged Jacob Fatu would later be added to their ranks, while the wise man Paul Heyman got viciously booted out of the faction. At the main event of Money in the Bank, the new Bloodline went to war with the team of Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton and Kevin Owens in 6-man tag team action. And even though the infamous Tonga Loa was not in the match, he was able to sneak himself into the highlight reels, this time by botching a low blow to Kevin Owens. A few weeks later, he was supposed to compete with Tama in a tag team title gauntlet match. However, he somehow sustained an eye injury during a brawl with Cody and KO the week prior, which led to him getting replaced by Jacob Fatu. The Bloodline would go on to win the tag titles, and after which got involved in Solo's match against Cody for the undisputed WWE title at SummerSlam. And again, the King of Botch style would grace us with yet another masterfully executed mishap.
You had one job.
Currently, Tonga Loa continues to run roughshod over Friday nights along with the Bloodline and has since replaced Jacob as one half of the tag team champions as per Solo's demand. Time will tell when he'll blow up the internet with one of his botches again, but one thing's for sure, it's gonna be awesome! So how bad is Tonga Loa in WWE actually? If I'm to rate his current run on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Let me explain why. I'm just gonna go ahead and point out the obvious and say that Tonga Loa is arguably one of the weakest in-ring performers in WWE right now. The man just doesn't offer anything to the table that the other members of the Bloodline can't already do better. Well, except for botching, I guess. He's like the guy who's just there to take the pinfall when needed, which kinda reminds me of Giovanni Vinci minus the wrestling skills. And looking at how his previous runs prior to teaming with his brother ended in abject failure, I just find it hard to see him having a successful singles run in WWE once the Bloodline angle had run its course. And also, this might be a stretch, but notice how he's the only member of the Bloodline still without his own music and Titletron. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Tonga Loa? And what's been your favorite botch so far? Let me know in the comments below. And if you wanna see more How Bad videos, check out the next one in your screen. See you there.